Hi guys, my name is Kirsty and welcome back to Upside Down Books. Today we're going to be looking at my September wrap-up and all of the wonderful reads that I managed to read last month. Thankfully, September was actually a much better reading month for me. Well, it was a better reading month. I feel like much makes it sound like it was spectacular, but I read 5 books instead of 3 because I only read 3 in August, which was reasonably terrible. So we're going to have a quick look through those books that I read. I read 3 physical books and 2 audiobooks, so I am going to do this in order of which they are read. The first book that I read was Empire of Sand by Tasha Suri, which is a book I've been meaning to get around to all year, and I've only just gotten around to it, which is incredible. This is a fantasy inspired by Mughal India, and it has lots of magic and great characters in it, and I ended up reading it 4 out of 5 stars. It is a YA book. It's not one I've actually heard a lot about, and it was a new release either last year or the year before. So the plot follows a character called Mer who has half Amrithi blood and half non-Amrithi blood, and the Amrithi are sort of like a magical tribal group, if you will. They have an almost sort of spiritual rather than magical connection with these paranormal creatures and sort of, I guess, energies. And through dances and various different other traditions, they're able to create these powers and manipulate things to their will. It was such an enjoyable book. It had a really good story to it. It was actually a little bit different to what I had anticipated in the end. I thought we would do more traveling and see more things, but it's actually kept quite small in its settings. Small, that's not the word I'm looking for. It's not as expansive as I thought it was going to be, but I still really enjoyed the characters. We have a wonderful sort of love to hate romance in it, which is fantastic. I love those tropes, and the villain in it is absolutely beautiful. He is so horrible and wicked and absolutely disgusting that you will enjoy piling your hatred on him. So I would highly recommend this book. This was super fun to read, and I can't wait for the next book, which is coming out at the end of this year, which is more of a follow-up or companion book, I believe, than a sequel, because it actually follows the story of Mer's younger sister, whose name I can't remember, but I am looking forward to that one, and the cover is stunning, so you should go and check it out. The next book I read was a book that was actually sent to me by Penguin Australia, and that was Wild by Nathan Besser. I did request this one because I thought it sounded like so much fun. I also have a full review up on this channel already, which is probably, I think it's actually my last video, so you can feel free to go and check that out. I'll leave a little card above to link you to it if you'd like. But this is a fantastic sort of historical fake memoir, which was a lot of fun. A surprising amount of fun to read. It follows a real historical character called Jonathan Wild, and all about his time and deeds and wrongdoings as the general thief taker in London during the early 1700s. And it has a couple of other narratives, well, not narratives, narrators in it as well that sort of tie together the story. But if you like historical fiction and you're looking for something a little different, I would definitely recommend checking this out because I honestly enjoyed it so much. I read it really fast. I enjoyed reading it. It wasn't a slog or boring because it was, I guess I was expecting it to read like a slow non-fiction memoir, but it was just like reading a fictional story, and lots of fun because it's set in like Robin Hood era as well. There's so much to enjoy, so would recommend checking this one out. I ended up reading this 4 out of 5 stars as well, so thank you Penguin for sending me a copy of this. I am thrilled to have read it. I then finally finished reading The Fiery Cross by Diana Gabaldon, which is the 5th book in the Outlander series. Now this book, in its paperback format, is over 1,200 or 1,300 pages long. Like, it's an absolute mammoth of a book. I have actually been reading this for about 3 months. I swear this always happens when I pick up Outlander, but I will read audiobooks obsessively and excessively and have so much time for them, and then I pick up Outlander and I go through a period of life where I'm not driving much or not doing something where I would usually read it, and it takes me so long to get through it. That being said, this is a 55-hour audiobook. It's absolutely ridiculously massive, and I'm terrified to read the 6th book, which is nearly 60 hours long, so it's fine. That being said, it is a lot of fun and the characters are wonderful. I rated this one 5 out of 5 stars. I think I have rated every single book in the Outlander series 5 out of 5 stars because there is simply nothing I can fault them for or say that I didn't like. Jamie and Claire are so enjoyable to follow through their lives, and now we have the added storylines of Bree and Roger. I won't go into it more because of spoilers, but we have so many characters by the 5th book and all the different ways that their stories are happening, and the settings are amazing. Of course, the setting has changed come the 4th or 3rd book, so there's just so much to explore. I was a bit worried at the start of the book that it was going to be a bit slower, but you just get so engrossed in their lives and everything that happens, and a plot twist happened at the end of the 5th book, which has me so excited to read the next book. I don't even know what the title is of the 6th book. but it's fine. So I will be getting onto the 6th book at some point, but I think I need to binge a few other smaller audiobooks in the meantime. But this is really good. I can't say enough how you should definitely persevere with the Outlander books. I don't know what they're like to read and whether they're a bit difficult because they're so heavy and long, but reading the audiobooks has been a wonderful experience, and the stories just keep giving. It doesn't get boring. Don't get bogged down. You can do it. I then powered through a second audiobook. As soon as I finished Outlander, I found my audiobook gear again, and I finished reading Jane Steele by Lindsay Fay. Yes, Lindsay Fay. This was ridiculously enjoyable. It's sort of a reimagining, not a I guess it's a retelling of Jane Eyre, which is one of my favourite classics, so that was really fun to read about. It's an interesting retelling of it because the main character, Jane, is also an avid reader of Jane Eyre, so it feels like you're breaking the fourth wall knowing that this is a sort of reimagining of that story that the character in the book also really likes. However, this is full of interesting people and characters, unexpected twists, tragedy, murder, and poverty on the streets of London, and Jane Steele is such a fantastic character that you will love her. The audiobook was absolutely phenomenal. I really enjoyed the performance. It's also not a very long book to read, so it's one that's very easy to get through, but yeah, it had an interesting sort of meshing of stories, because you had Jane's story and she's an orphan, her mum dies and her aunt doesn't want her to take over the estate, and there's all sorts of secrecy and other hidden agendas as to why she can't take over the estate, so she sends her away to an all-girls school, which is terrible, and the girls get abused there, not in a sexual way but in all the other ways, and it's just awful what she goes through, and it's about her running away and how she tries to make a life for herself and sort of half fails and half succeeds. But then we have the story going back at the estate who takes over her house, and they're people from the Punjab in India, and there's this whole story and history with that, and it's just like such a contrast to the rest of the story, but it works so well. You will love the characters in this story. I initially rated this, I think, 4 out of 5 stars, but I just was sitting and stewing on it for like a solid 24 hours. I ended up rating it 5 stars and adding it to my favourites for the year. I can't get over this story. I want to read more, and I want to read it again and again and again. The next book I read was a book that was sent to me by Bloomsbury, and that was Some Places More Than Others by Rene Watson. This was a bit of a spontaneous read for me because it was so short, and I really felt that I needed to actually read some of my review copies that were recent and try and get them out before the release date, which I did for this one. Now, this was actually surprisingly good. It's a middle grade fiction set in Oregon or New Orleans. It's a very good question, but mostly in New York. And the main character is a young girl, Amira, and she wants to find out more about her family because her parents haven't really ever explained it to her, and there's a bit of a mystery between her dad and her grandfather, who have been estranged since her birth. So she gets this school project called the Suitcase Project, where she has to put together sort of her own story and present it to the class, and manage to wrap herself around her father's pinky and convince him to take her to New York when he goes for a business trip. So this whole story is about finding her roots. It's a really good own voices video, with the main characters being African American, I do believe. So that whole side of it was unexpectedly really poignant and really well done, I felt. So for a book that is like only just 200 pages long, this really packs a punch, and I just thought it was such an easy read. I read it in one sitting, so I would highly recommend this one. I ended up rating it 4 out of 5 stars, so thank you very much, Bloomsbury, for sending me a copy of this. So that actually brings me to the end of all 5 books that I read in September. I had a fantastic reading month. I really enjoyed all of the books I read, which is refreshing and encouraging. It brought me to 41 out of 50 books for my challenge. I have since read several more already in October, as I'm filming this in October, so I'm well on track to hitting my goal of 50 books. I'm hoping I'm going to get a bit of a surge. I'm definitely feeling like I'm more in a reading mood. I've read quite a few books in October already, so I'm hoping that I will finish on maybe 60, but I'm not gonna worry too much about it or try and push myself to do it. If I hit 50, that's fine. That has been my goal for the year, just to keep it simple and read some longer books. I am doing a wrap-up for September on my blog, which will be up in the next few days, which I'm going to do a statistical breakdown of how I'm going with my reading goals and percentages of advanced reader copies versus things that have been my own choice, and how many books I've read that are over 450 pages, which I'm classifying as big books for my challenge this year, and how many have been under that. And looking at the statistics, I'm actually really pleased with how that's going, so make sure you check that out and keep an eye out for that over the next week when that'll be going up. Hopefully in the next few days, but we will see what my schedule brings. I'm anticipating that my reading, especially of audiobooks, is going to skyrocket because my commute to work has changed this month, which means that I now get a solid hour, if not more, both ways to and from work, uninterrupted, of just reading. So I'm very excited about that. But I will leave that wrap up here for today. I don't have anything more to share with you for September. It was a pretty good month. I'm really looking forward to seeing what I achieve in October, and I'm getting really excited for what I might end up reading in November as well. Let me know in the comments down below if you have read any of these books, or if you're planning to, or what you managed to read in September. But other than that, I will see you in my next video. Goodbye.